What if I told you that you could live off $200,000 for the rest of your life and never have to work another day again? You're probably thinking I've finally lost it. Maybe I've been staring at spreadsheets for too long, or I've been eating too much ramen and it's affected my brain. But here's the thing. While most financial gurus are telling you that you need $1 million to retire, I'm going to show you how to make $200,000 last forever. And no, this isn't some get-rich-quick scheme where I'm going to tell you to invest in cryptocurrency or start a dropshipping business from your mom's basement. This is about understanding the difference between living and surviving, between financial independence and financial optimization. Because here's what nobody talks about. The average American spends about $70,000 a year. But what if you didn't have to be average? What if you could live a fulfilling life on a fraction of that amount? Now, before you click away thinking this is going to be some extreme minimalist manifesto where I tell you to live in a van and eat nothing but beans, stick with me. This strategy isn't about deprivation. It's about precision. It's about understanding exactly where your money goes and making every dollar work harder than a barista during morning rush hour. The secret isn't in making more money. It's in needing less of it. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, step by step, with real numbers and real strategies that actually work. Let's start with some brutal honesty. If you follow conventional retirement advice, $200,000 won't last you very long. The famous 4% rule says you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year without running out of money. Do the math on $200,000 and that gives you $8,000 a year to live on. $8,000 a year. That's about $667 a month. In most places, that won't even cover your rent, let alone food, utilities, and the occasional Netflix subscription. You'd be eating ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and not the fancy kind with the little vegetable packets. But here's where most people get it wrong. They assume the 4% rule is gospel, carved in stone tablets and handed down from the financial gods. The 4% rule is based on a 30-year retirement period and assumes you want to maintain your current lifestyle. But what if we throw those assumptions out the window? What if instead of trying to maintain a $70,000 a year lifestyle on $8,000, we design a $8,000 a year lifestyle that doesn't feel like punishment? What if we could live well on that amount, not just survive? The traditional approach is backwards. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, then getting frustrated when it doesn't work. Instead of forcing your limited money to cover unlimited expenses, we're going to flip the script. Think about it this way. The 4% rule assumes you're going to live exactly like you do now, just with less money. That's like trying to drive a Ferrari on a bicycle budget. It's not going to work and you're going to be miserable trying. But what if we designed a lifestyle that runs perfectly on $8,000 a year? What if we could make that money feel abundant instead of scarce? That's where the real magic happens. That's where $200,000 becomes enough to last forever. Here's the fundamental shift that changes everything. Instead of thinking about withdrawing money from your $200,000, we're going to think about preserving it. Instead of slowly bleeding your account dry, we're going to make that money work for you while keeping the principal intact. Traditional retirement planning is like having a bucket with a hole in it. You keep pouring water in, but eventually the bucket empties. Our approach is different. We're going to plug the hole and live off the overflow. The strategy has 3 core components, and they work together like a well-oiled machine. First, we maximize the income your $200,000 can generate without touching the principal. Second, we minimize your living expenses to match that income. And third, we create lifestyle systems that make low-cost living feel abundant, not restrictive. Let's talk about that first component. Your $200,000 needs to work harder than a single parent juggling 3 jobs. We're not just parking it in a savings account earning 0.01% interest. We're putting it to work in dividend-paying investments, high-yield savings accounts, and other income-generating assets. If you can generate a 4% return on your $200,000, that's $8,000 a year in income without touching your principal. But here's the kicker. You don't need to limit yourself to 4%. With the right mix of investments, you could potentially generate 5%, 6%, or even 7% annually. That could push your annual income to $10,000, $12,000, or $14,000 without depleting your nest egg. Now, I'm not talking about risky investments or gambling with your money. I'm talking about a diversified portfolio of dividend stocks, REITs, and bonds that can generate steady income. Think of it like owning a rental property, except instead of dealing with tenants who call you at midnight because their toilet is clogged, you own tiny pieces of hundreds of profitable companies. The second component is expense optimization. And this is where most people think I'm going to tell them to live like a monk. But expense optimization isn't about deprivation. It's about efficiency. It's about getting the maximum value from every dollar you spend. Think about it like this. If you're spending $50,000 a year and getting $30,000 worth of actual value and satisfaction, you're wasting $20,000. But if you can spend $10,000 a year and get $15,000 worth of value and satisfaction, you're winning. The goal isn't to spend less money. The goal is to get more life per dollar. Here's where we get to the real secret sauce, the game changer that makes living off $200,000 not just possible, but actually enjoyable. It's called geo-arbitrage, and it's basically financial hacking for people who understand that location is everything. Geo-arbitrage is a fancy term for a simple concept. You earn money in a strong currency or save money in a high-cost area, then spend it in a place where that same money goes much further. It's like being a financial magician, except instead of pulling rabbits out of hats, you're pulling lifestyle upgrades out of your bank account. Think about it this way. $1 in Manhattan buys you about as much as a quarter anywhere else. But flip that equation around. $1 earned or saved in Manhattan can buy you $4 worth of lifestyle in places like Thailand, Mexico, or Eastern Europe. Suddenly, your $8,000 annual budget starts looking a lot more interesting. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're picturing yourself living in some remote village with no internet, eating questionable street food, and communicating through hand gestures. But that's not what modern geo-arbitrage looks like. We're talking about living in vibrant cities with excellent infrastructure, reliable internet, great food, and rich cultures, all for a fraction of what you'd pay back home. The math here is absolutely mind-blowing when you really break it down. Let's say you're currently spending $3,000 a month on rent, food, and basic living expenses in a mid-tier American city. That's $36,000 a year, which means your $200,000 would last about 5.5 years if you never earned another penny. But take that same lifestyle to a place like Chiang Mai, Thailand, and suddenly you're spending maybe $800 a month for the same quality of life. Actually, scratch that. You're probably getting a better quality of life, better food, more interesting culture, friendlier people, and weather that doesn't require you to own 17 different jackets. The beauty of geo-arbitrage in the modern world is that you don't have to sacrifice the things that matter to you. You want fast internet? Most of these places have better internet than rural America. You want good healthcare? Many countries have healthcare systems that put the US to shame at a fraction of the cost. You want cultural experiences? You're literally living in the middle of ancient civilizations with thousands of years of history. Here's the part that really makes this strategy work. You're not just reducing your expenses. You're often improving your quality of life while spending less money. It's like finding out that the generic brand cereal actually tastes better than the name brand and costs half as much. Except instead of cereal, we're talking about your entire life. The key is choosing your location strategically. You want places with a low cost of living but high quality of life. You want stable governments, good infrastructure, and welcoming attitudes toward foreigners. You want places where your money goes far but you don't feel like you're roughing it. And here's something most people don't realize. You don't have to commit to one place forever. Part of the beauty of this lifestyle is flexibility. You can spend 6 months in Thailand, 6 months in Mexico, and maybe visit family back home for the holidays. You become a citizen of the world, and your office is wherever you can get a good Wi-Fi signal. The visa situation is easier than most people think, too. Many countries offer long-term tourist visas, retirement visas, or digital nomad visas specifically designed for people like us. Some places practically roll out the red carpet because they want your foreign currency flowing into their local economy. Let me paint you a picture of what $800 a month actually looks like in Southeast Asia, because I guarantee it's not what you're imagining. We're not talking about sleeping on bamboo mats and bathing in rivers. We're talking about a lifestyle that would cost you $4,000 a month back home. Let's break down a realistic monthly budget in a place like Chiang Mai, Thailand, or Da Nang, Vietnam. These aren't remote villages. These are modern cities with international airports, excellent restaurants, co-working spaces, and expat communities from around the world. Housing is your biggest expense, and it's where the savings really shine. A nice one-bedroom apartment in a good neighborhood with air conditioning, modern amenities, and maybe even a pool and gym in your building will run you about $300 to $400 a month. Compare that to the $1,500 you'd pay for something similar in most American cities, and you're already saving over $1,000 monthly just on rent. Food is where things get really interesting. You can eat like a king for $5 to $8 a day if you embrace the local cuisine. And we're not talking about surviving on rice and beans. We're talking about fresh seafood, tropical fruits, expertly prepared dishes with flavors that will ruin American food for you forever. Street food in Thailand isn't sketchy carnival food. It's often better than what you'd pay $25 for at a trendy restaurant back home. If you want to mix in some Western food or cook at home occasionally, budget maybe $150 to $200 a month for groceries and occasional restaurant meals. You'll still be eating better than you do now, just spending a fraction of the money. Transportation is practically free compared to American standards. A scooter rental costs about $50 a month and gas is cheap. If you prefer not to drive, taxis and ride-sharing apps are incredibly affordable. A 20-minute taxi ride might cost you $3. Try that in New York City and see what happens to your budget. Utilities, including electricity, water, internet, and phone service, typically run about $50 to $80 a month. And we're talking about high-speed internet that's often faster than what you get in many American cities. Your Netflix addiction is safe. Healthcare deserves special mention because it's so much better and cheaper than what most Americans are used to. A doctor's visit might cost $20. Dental cleaning? Maybe $30. Many expats actually save money by flying back to Thailand for medical procedures instead of getting them done in the States. Entertainment and miscellaneous expenses might add another $100 to $150 to your monthly budget. This covers everything from gym memberships to weekend trips to nearby countries, occasional shopping, and nights out with friends. Add it all up, and you're looking at around $700 to $800 a month for a lifestyle that includes modern housing, excellent food, reliable transportation, good healthcare, and plenty of entertainment options. That's $8,400 to $9,600 a year, which fits perfectly within our $200,000 forever budget. The best part? This isn't a survival budget. This is a thriving budget. You're not counting pennies or eating ramen every night. You're living well, exploring new cultures, meeting interesting people, and having experiences that most people only dream about during their 2-week vacations. Now let's talk about Latin America, because if Southeast Asia is the efficiency play, Latin America is the lifestyle play. This is where you go when you want to live off $200,000 forever, but still feel like you're close enough to home that you could drive there if you really had to. Well, maybe not drive, but at least the time zones make sense and you can still get your mom's phone calls at reasonable hours. Places like Mexico, Guatemala, Colombia, and Ecuador offer an incredible quality of life at prices that will make you wonder why anyone pays American rent prices. And the best part? You're still in the Americas. You can fly home for Christmas without needing 3 connecting flights and a Sherpa guide. Let's break down what $900 to $1,000 a month looks like in a place like Mérida, Mexico, or Cuenca, Ecuador. These aren't beach resort towns where everything is inflated for tourists. These are real cities with real culture, where locals actually live and work, and where your dollars stretch like yoga instructors. Housing in these cities is absolutely ridiculous compared to U.S. prices. A beautiful colonial-style apartment or small house in the historic center might run you $400 to $500 a month. We're talking high ceilings, tile floors, maybe a little courtyard where you can pretend you're in a Spanish movie. The same space in San Antonio or Phoenix would cost you $2,000 easy. Food is where Latin America really shines, and I'm not just talking about tacos, although the tacos are life-changing. Fresh produce is incredibly cheap because you're often living where it's grown. A week's worth of groceries might cost you $30, and that includes meat, fresh vegetables, tropical fruits you've never heard of, and enough avocados to make every millennial back home weep with envy. Eating out is almost comically affordable. A full meal at a local restaurant might cost $3 to $5, and we're not talking about fast food. We're talking about home-cooked meals made by someone's grandmother who has been perfecting her recipes for 40 years. You'll eat better than you ever have in your life, and your monthly food budget will be less than what you used to spend on coffee. Transportation costs are minimal if you choose your location wisely. Many of these cities are walkable, with good public transportation systems. A bus ride across town might cost 50 cents. If you want to rent a car for weekend trips, you're looking at maybe $20 a day. Gas is cheaper, parking is easier, and traffic jams are more like traffic suggestions. The healthcare situation in many Latin American countries is actually fantastic, especially if you're coming from the American healthcare system where a broken leg can bankrupt you. Many countries have universal healthcare systems that you can access as a resident, or you can get private insurance for a fraction of what you'd pay in the States. A doctor's visit might cost $25, and that's without insurance. Utilities and internet are reliable and cheap in most major cities. You're looking at maybe $60 to $80 a month for electricity, water, internet, and phone service. The internet speeds are often better than rural America, and the power outages are less frequent than Texas in winter. Entertainment and travel within the region are incredibly affordable. Weekend trips to other countries, visits to ancient ruins, beach getaways, mountain adventures. You can live like a travel blogger without the pressure of actually having to blog about it. A domestic flight might cost $50, and hotels in tourist areas that cater to locals are priced for local wages, not American tourist budgets. Here's where the slow travel aspect really comes into play. Instead of being tied to one location, you can move around seasonally. Spend the hot months in the mountains of Ecuador, the cool months on the coast of Mexico. Follow good weather and interesting festivals. Your rent is so cheap that you could literally maintain apartments in multiple cities and still spend less than you would on rent in most American cities. The cultural immersion is incredible, and it happens naturally when you're not just passing through as a tourist. You learn Spanish not because you're taking classes, but because you need it to argue with the guy at the market about avocado prices. You discover music, art, and traditions that have been around for centuries. You make friends with locals who invite you to family celebrations where you eat too much and dance badly, but everyone pretends you're doing great. The expat communities in these places are fantastic too. You'll meet retired teachers from Ohio, former tech workers from California, artists from Portland, all living their best lives on budgets that would barely cover a studio apartment back home. There's a whole network of people who figured out this secret and are happy to share restaurant recommendations and visa tips. Now, before you start packing your bags and writing your resignation letter, let's talk about the stuff that the Instagram travel influencers don't mention. Living off $200,000 forever sounds amazing until you run into the hidden costs and risks that can blow up your budget faster than a cryptocurrency crash. Healthcare is the big one that keeps people awake at night. Yes, healthcare is cheaper in most of these countries, but what happens when you need serious medical care? What happens when you need a procedure that isn't available locally, or when you need to be evacuated back to the States for treatment? International health insurance is absolutely essential, and it's not cheap. A good policy that covers you worldwide, including medical evacuation, can cost $200 to $400 a month depending on your age and health status. That's $2,400 to $4,800 a year, which puts a serious dent in your $8,000 annual budget. But skipping it is like playing Russian roulette with your entire financial plan. The coverage gaps are real too. Your international insurance might cover emergency treatment, but what about ongoing care for chronic conditions? What about prescription medications that might not be available or might be different formulations? What about dental care, vision care, mental health services? These costs can add up quickly and aren't always covered by basic international policies. Then there's inflation, which is like a slow leak in your financial tire. The countries with the lowest cost of living often have higher inflation rates than the US. What costs $800 a month today might cost $1,000 a month in 5 years. $1,200 in 10 years. Your fixed income from your $200,000 nest egg doesn't automatically adjust for local inflation. Currency fluctuations can work for you or against you, and you have no control over them. If the dollar strengthens against the local currency, great. Your purchasing power increases. But if the dollar weakens, your budget gets squeezed. I've seen expats in Mexico watch their effective income drop by 20% in a single year due to peso strength. Visa issues are another hidden cost that can derail your plans. Tourist visas are usually limited to 90 to 180 days, which means visa runs, border crossings, and the associated costs. Long-term visas often require proof of income, health certificates, background checks, and fees that can add up to thousands of dollars annually. Some countries require you to prove a minimum monthly income to qualify for residency visas. Mexico's temporary resident visa requires proof of about $1,600 monthly income or $27,000 in bank statements. If your $200,000 strategy only generates $8,000 annually, you might not qualify for legal long-term residence. Banking and money transfer fees are death by 1,000 cuts. International wire transfers, ATM fees, currency conversion fees, account maintenance fees for keeping U.S. accounts active while living abroad. These can easily add $50 to $100 monthly to your expenses. Tax complications are real and expensive. You might owe taxes in your country of residence. You definitely still owe U.S. taxes as an American citizen abroad, and you might need professional help navigating both systems. Tax preparation for expats can cost $500 to $2,000 annually. Emergency funds become more complicated when you're living abroad. You need accessible cash for visa runs, medical emergencies, political instability, natural disasters, or family emergencies back home. A plane ticket home can cost $1,000 to $2,000 on short notice, and that's money that needs to come from somewhere outside your regular budget. The psychological costs are harder to quantify, but equally real. Homesickness, cultural fatigue, language barriers, isolation from family and old friends. Some people thrive as perpetual expats. Others discover they need deeper roots than a monthly apartment rental can provide. So here we are at the end of this financial rabbit hole. And you're probably sitting there wondering if living off $200,000 forever is actually realistic, or if I've been inhaling too much spreadsheet fumes. If it's for you, that's great. If it isn't, then here's how you can live off $300,000 instead.